Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. So I have a really tough job, if you think about it, because either I have to follow the act of everybody that came in front of me, and it is Wednesday morning, and you're all tired. So I'm going to try to do my best to keep you informed, interested, and entertained as well. So I want to do a couple of things today. So one of the things that I want to do is I want to tell you a tale of transformation and innovation. So 600 BC, we had drums being used in Africa so you could communicate with people. You know, in 550 BC, we have tales of Phidippus running from Marathon to Athens to carry a one-word message that was victory. 200 BC, we have reports of smoke signals being used along the Great Wall of China so people could communicate. So fast forward that to the 12th century, and then we have reports of pigeon post being used in Egypt to carry messages. So I want to keep going forward, and I say, you know, around the 1800s, 1840, we have the telegraph that is now coming, taking over communications. 100 years later, we have mobile phones. And then we fast forward to 1971, we have the first email. 1992, we have the first text. And then in 2006, the first tweet. And it ends up in clouds like that, right? So it is an amazing journey in communications and transforming the way that we actually communicate and relate to each other. So what I want to do today is tell you that we can do something similar when we look at regulatory review. So, and you're saying, yeah, I understand, you know, drums and pigeon post and, you know, smoke signals. That all sounds like regulatory review to me. But I want to say that we have been in this journey by applying the right tools at the right time and at the right audience. So I think I am completely in the middle of my presentation, so I am going to go back. Go. All right, let's try that again. So, so what we want to be doing is applying better tools, better data, better tools, better decisions. So I have a tale of innovation and transformation as well. And if you think about regulatory review as when we started with paper and getting all of our applications in paper and submitting volumes of data, as a reviewer when I started in the agency, I remember clearly being assigned an IND or an NDA and expecting my boxes to arrive. And they would just, the mail person would come in with a little cart and they will drop, 5 boxes in front of my office, and then they will leave and I will go look at them and go, oh, that's what I'm reviewing today. So, so we start with paper and then we move forward. So I want to say that, that era, the telegraph, the first emails, the first text, the first mobile phones, so we've had that. We've had that with e-submissions. We've had that with Candace, the first time that we got actually electronic submissions one at a time to the agency. Data standards are marking that transformation as well. So we are moving forward, and I think we are really at the cusp of getting to that place in which we are going to be doing, regulatory reviews with really advanced tools and technologies that are available to us. So I want to tell you who we are. So the Office of Computational Science is an office within translational sciences in CEDAR, the Center for Drugs at the FDA. And our mission really is, our vision is to really be able to enable advanced scientific review across the life cycle of products, of regulated projects. And what we want to do is as our vision, we want to support CEDAR in continually improving the drug evaluation and review process. We want to capitalize on innovation primarily. We want to make sure that our reviewers are getting quality data that they can use, and we are providing access to high-end analytical tools and training, because we feel very, very strongly that it's not only about giving people tools and technologies, it's about also teaching them how to use those effectively. So that's the vision and mission of our office. And what we want to be doing is we want to be able to increase think time, right? Because we feel that our reviewers need to be thinking about the clinical repercussions of the data that they have in front of them. Not about how to fix their data, not about how to organize it, not about how to put it in a tool so that then they can do their analysis. We want them to be thinking about what it implies, what it means when you look into patient health. We want to be able to improve the effectiveness and the efficiency of the regulatory review process. And at the end of the day, what we really care about is about the safety and efficacy of our products. So when you take a product, a medicinal product, when one of your children or your grandparents or your friends take a medication, we all feel 100% sure that somebody, a group of people, have taken a lot of time and effort to the best of their abilities to ensure that this product is not only safe, that you'll take it, that it won't harm you, but also that it is effective, that it is working the way that it's supposed to be working. So this is my tale of transformation and innovation. So I want to tell you how we've done that. And like I said at the beginning with my story about the smoke signals and the pigeons and the people running and things like that, where did we start? We started at the very beginning of a transformation pathway. And we did it by tackling the regulatory review in a way that we felt was going to really make a big impact. So I want to tell you about Jumpstart. And as I was mentioned before, we're very, very honored to receive an HHS Innovates Award this past summer on this service. And let me tell you what it is what I said at the beginning. It's about applying the right tools at the right time to the right audience. And Jumpstart is a service. It is a compilation of tools, technologies, and people that actually put a service at the disposal in front of the reviewers. So it does bring a lot of advantages, and we've seen our reviewers being really excited and understanding that this is really making a big impact. So what does Jumpstart do? So the purpose of Jumpstart is it does primarily two things. It assesses the quality of the data, and it tells you whether the data that you received, you're going to be able to load in the tools that you want to use, and it tells you, what kind of analysis you're going to be able to do. Because what we found is that we receive data, and then the reviewers, an application is filed, and 2 months on the road, 3 months on the road, they are ready to, embark on their analysis of a particular adverse event that they feel it's important, and they can't load the data in the tools because somebody made a mistake, because the domains were not coded in the right way. For whatever reason, now they can't load. And now they're spending a week trying to solve that problem. A couple of months on the road, they realize that they send the data sets and there's duplicates everywhere. So what do? Right? You got to go back to the sponsor, get it fixed. You got to fix it yourself. There's all these decisions. So this really is making an impact because we are figuring out these problems at filing, not 3 or 4 months on the road, right? And it's really helpful to the sponsors as well because now they can have those communications at the beginning, not when they're right in the middle of the review process. So this makes a really big difference. The other thing that it does is that it provides a series of analyses that we feel are sort of the foundation of the review process. So things like demographics analyses, disposition analyses, things that you want to know at a high level before you actually start delving into the data. So it provides those things. So let me tell you a little bit about what the regulatory review process looks like, right? And you probably all know this very well, but I want to position it. So I did the Lord. So here is all these conversations that you have before you actually come in with an application. And we're going to focus on the NDA in the process, not the IND process. So Jumpstart starts right here, where you've submitted your application. Now you're going to go through 45 days of filing. And what happens at filing is that a team of reviewers look at the application and they all figure out whether they have the data that they need to do this review. They do a lot of other things. But for the purposes of this discussion, that's what we're focusing on. So what we do is with Jumpstart, in those 45 days of filing, we provide 2 sessions. And in those 2 sessions, session number 1 is about the data quality. And there's an assessment on data quality, and it encompasses what I sort of mentioned before, which is conformance to the standard, things like quality of data, composition of the data, whether you have everything that you need. It goes into whether you can load. It goes through all the pieces that you need to do your review. Then a group of experts meets with the reviewers, and we go through all the things that were found from validation results in terms of related to the conformance to the standard, and composition analyses, where the data is located, what is the relationship between the domains, do you have everything that you need, are you going to be able to load this in the tools that you want to use as a reviewer, whatever analytical tool you use, and if you are expecting to do a particular type of analysis, like if you are interested in liver and you know that you want to do a liver assessment, a DILI assessment, are you going to be able to do it? Do you have the right pieces? If you are concerned about a particular adverse event and you feel that you're going to be able to do a particular type of analysis, it tells you, yes, you have the data. Or no, you know, they didn't provide that data, so you need to have a conversation with the sponsor about whether this is data that they're going to be providing and you are going to need it for your review. So those are the types of conversations that are happening at that point. And then 2 weeks later, so this is 1 month into the 45-day filing period, then we meet with them again. And at that point, we hand them in a series of exploratory analysis. And it goes through things like, here's your demographics assessment, here's your disposition assessment. These are all the foundational pieces that will jumpstart your review. This is really useful because a lot of times the reviewers spend a fair amount of time trying to understand the data, get their heads around how it's organized, and also making sure that what they have in front of them is what they think they have in front of us. So it's not a matter of just receiving all the results and saying, okay, well, yeah, I know I have all my counts, I know how many people were enrolled in these clinical trials. They want to kind of know that by themselves. They want to know that the data that was submitted really matches with the clinical study reports and that the analysis that are provided also match up. So it's kind of like just so they can all start in the same place. So that's what we're doing. So again, 45 days, impact is incredibly important because you're making decisions about whether the data that you're going to be dealing with for another 6 to 9 months, it's what you need, it's what you want, it's what's going to support your review process. So we do these 2 pieces. Oh my goodness. And here's what I want to show you here is how some of these pieces are fitting in, right? So we have here the output categories. And the data fitness I described to you, it's highly related to the validation rules that come out of our validator. It's also related to data composition assessments of the relationships of the actual domains. It also it provides to them the demographics, the subject disposition, the adverse events, the lab findings, and the vital signs. And all of this is provided in a span of 4 weeks. It's a lot of work. We have a lot of people working on this. But we found that some of the testimonials that we receive from the reviewers is that they feel it's incredibly useful because they feel like they started their review. Once it's been filed and they really sit down to do their reviews, they feel like they've been down the road for 3 to 4 months. That is incredible if you think about it, because what that means is that you are allowing these clinicians, these medical officers, to spend their time thinking about the clinical data and not thinking about how do I load this into the tool. It's been 4 months since I've touched my analytical tool. How was it that I did that again? So now they're just going right there with this information on their fingertips. We've also heard that just by looking at or being exposed to the signal detection analysis that we have, that because these are experts, right? These people know what they're doing. So they've been able to hone in particular adverse events that they were concerned about. And it has gone either two ways, right? It's gone the way of, yes, I know this is a problem, and it was a problem, and it ended up being in labeling. Or, you know what? It really isn't a problem. Once I delve into the data, it really isn't a problem, we're good to go. So it's really made that process a lot more seamless and a lot more efficient. And we think that that's really, really valuable for our reviewers. So what I'm going to do in the next couple of slides is I'm going to show you at a very high level some of the examples of the things that we find, so you understand the value of doing this really early in the process. And this is very simplified, and I know you're all data people, so you're going to see this and it's going to seem very high level, but it's just as an example of what we're doing. So some of the things so what are the things that we find? We find that data comes with, that is mismatch. So now, of course, I'm putting 4 subjects in here, but you all know that our trials come in with hundreds and hundreds of subjects. And what we do is we have people in the 2 arms. So which arm were they on? Or did they participate really in both arms? Because that would be a little scary. So these are some of the things that we find. And it seems obvious, but it's not as obvious when you have 15 rows of data and you don't know exactly where things are, and you start to see that the ends are not meeting up, that they're not matching. So here's another example of misrepresented data. We have 2 domains. We have demographics and we have adverse events. Why do we have different numbers? Is it reasonable to have a count of 123 subjects dying in demographics and 44 subjects dying out of adverse events? There may be a very good reason for that, depending on how you're counting. But when you're trying to figure out your data, this makes a difference, right? Going directly to those subjects and understanding their clinical profiles, what arms they were in, all the details about those particular subjects is really, really important. So here's another thing that happens more often than you would think, is duplicate data. So now we're having subjects that are repeated randomly through your application. So what do? Now your means are skewed, your counts are all skewed, and you have no idea where this is coming from. So now again, my point here is that we're asking our clinical reviewers to be searching for these things instead of thinking about, I am seeing heart problems. Is this going to translate into something that post-market is going to be a problem? Right? These are the things we want our reviewers to be thinking about. What is the clinical significance of what they have in front of them, not why they're seeing means that do not match. So this is probably my favorite example, because this happens all the time. And our reviewers spend an inordinate amount of time figuring out what happened in here. So this is an example of disposition data. And these were all coming, and they were coded to other, right? But when you look at actually what's happening, why is it other? Should it be other, right? Because if you're looking at, a patient terminated because of glucose levels that were too high despite a medication, is that really other, or is that, lack of efficacy? And these are things that make a really big difference when you're counting things at the end and making decisions about their clinical significance. Another one that I really like is, we discontinued, the patient was discontinued because there was no therapeutic response. Really? That's other? To me, not even a clinician, but to me that really does speak to lack of efficacy. So when you have 3,000 lines that are going through coding like this, and you're trying to find these things, wouldn't it be nice if they were bubbling up and you were able to see what really was going on? Because the reviewers are going to do that anyways. So we might as well just give them the information at the very top so they can think about it, rather than just hide it in there. Because at the end of the day, like I said, what we really care about is the safety and efficacy of the product. We want our patients to not only be able to take this medication and know that it's not going to hurt them, but it is also that it works, right? That it is going to make a difference in their quality of life. So what I've done so far, I hope, is to provide you with a very good idea of what our Jumpstart service is. We spent 2012 piloting the service, and that was the idea of how was it going to be organized, what were the main components, what were the tools that we were going to bring in, and we did it with 4 different NDAs throughout the course of the year. We were assembling the teams and delivering the product. We spent 2013, and we delivered 24 of those. 12 of those were full NDAs, meaning a full service, which meant that you were provided the 2 pieces, so both the quality assessments as well as the exploratory analyses, and then 12 of them that were data what we call data fitness assessments, and that was really geared towards data composition, data quality, validation rules, etc., just to make sure that loading into the tools, making sure that the data is of quality enough that it's going to actually, it's reviewable, that it is going to provide the information that you really want out of it. So this year, we've increased that number because everybody's really excited about it. We feel that it is really making a huge difference in what we're doing, and we're doing 30 full assessments. Now, if you remember, if you think about how many applications CDER gets in a year, you say, well, 30, is that really? Well, it is a very directed service. And what we're doing is we're working with both all the divisions in CDER and with O&D leadership to identify those applications that we feel is going to really meet, it's going to be of the highest priority so we can target the service. And we're also thinking about how our service is going to be sustained and established for the next couple of years, because there's a lot of interest in doing this in this fashion. So those are some of the things that we're doing. The next piece I want to talk to you about is, well, actually, let me show you. Here is a snapshot of our website in which the reviewers can go in, they can request their service, and they have information. When all the outputs are provided to the reviewers. So here they can go and grab all of the outputs and provide feedback. There's information about what's going on. They can request here. This is a video that I encourage you to go and take a look at. It's in the FDA.gov website, and it's the one that we use as a backgrounder for our HHS Innovates award. So I encourage you to go take a look and share this, and there's more information about the Jumpstart service. So we're very excited. We think that we're in the right path. We feel that it is really impacting the way that the regulatory review, it's been addressed, and we're hopeful for more innovation coming up in the future. So, and here's the website if you want more information about it. So, on Monday, I was at Christian's fantastic presentation on the ongoing evolutionary changes of our industry, and he was talking about the challenges of warehousing data and how difficult it has been to really come to a place in which we can put data together. So I want to tell you about what we have been doing, and our hopes and our efforts to be in the right path to being able to integrate data in a way that is really useful. And if you go back to that timeline that I showed you, in which you had the filing pieces, and then you had the actual review process that lasts from 6 to 9 months, depending on where you are in there, there's a big need to be able to integrate data, not only within an application, so you can have studies linking to each other, but also across classes sometimes, so you can actually really look into whether there's a public health hazard. So there's a big need to do this, and it's been incredibly burdensome across the years to be able to integrate data for a variety of reasons, including the fact that we still don't get data that is consistently structured. We have standards, but there is some flexibility in the standards, so despite all of our efforts, we still receive data that is not completely structured in a way that makes this as a seamless process. However, we have been working on an architecture that allows us to put data together by using a validation process that identifies some of those variability pieces, then loading the data into a warehouse environment that has a data model that we feel is really, it's robust, but it's flexible enough to allow us to actually put the data in the right places, and is based on the bridge model. And then from the warehouse to be able to put that data forward into data marts that are very specific to certain needs. So in what we've done so far, we have data marts that are getting our data in SCTM format, and then it allows you to take tools, analytical tools, and join them to that data, because it's presenting the data exactly in the same way that you need it to work out with those analytical tools. So we also have plans for adding additional data marts that will present the data according to a therapeutic area. So if you are in antivirals and you know that you are going to be receiving, X amount of applications in the next year for, let's say, hepatitis C or something like that, then you can put your specific types of analysis, the things that you're really interested in, that is going to be very different what oncology is doing, because they look at different things. So this allows the presentation of the data to be targeted to the right audience. And we're working on capturing those requirements and putting the data at the fingertip of the reviewers. So we spent the last 2.5 years working out the model pieces, the architecture, and putting all the pieces, thinking about really carefully about our functionalities. We're thinking very carefully about how to train people on accessing the data, because it's not just about having the data in there. It's about whether, having the data in one place doesn't mean necessarily that you need to put all the data together. As statisticians and programmers, you know that it is not always the case that you should be putting things together. So, that piece of training, of understanding those constraints. We are hoping to go live this fall. We have this environment in two of our 3 environments in the agency. So we've gone through dev. We're in test right now, and they're working feverishly to get everything in place, so we are in production this fall. So we're very excited, and what we want to do is we want to do this in a very targeted way, because if you've talked to me for long enough, you realize that my mantra is, keep it small, keep it focused, and keep it going, keep it moving. And keep it small is and keep it focused is a way to target what you're doing so it doesn't blow up, right? So you do one thing, you do it well, and then you keep moving. So what we're doing is we're taking, remember those exploratory analyses? We have them coming out of the CTR. So that way, if when you're starting your review, we can get our reviewers to start moving into the CTR by just doing those pieces. And we'll get them in, we'll get them acquainted with the technology, we'll get them to learn how to do this. We have things that are very targeted available to them that are going to make an impact. So now we're integrating with Jumpstart. So since we can't provide Jumpstart for every single reviewer, we'll provide the full service for some, we'll provide these capabilities for others. So this is a way to sort of spread the wealth and try to impact as much as we can. So this is a snapshot of our landing page. And the reason I'm showing you this is because we've tried to be very thoughtful about how we're presenting the data to the reviewers. And we try to do this in a very sort of innate way. So if you go, you get the study survey, you get the study summaries, you don't get any of the other options, because we want them to go sequentially through the process, which is pick what you need to be looking at, and then go and do the analysis that you need to be doing. And here, this is the build your own data set. So you have the sequential of pick your data sets, you have these exploratory analyses that are sort of the foundation of what you are. But when you want to do further analysis, you can build your own queries. So it's a progression of sort of not only expertise, but also a targeted way of looking at the data. So this is an example of a search results for the summaries. And it's not only that you get a listing of whatever it's loaded into the CTR, but also that when you click onto this, you get all the information about that study right there without having to go back to your e-submission and figure out what you're looking at. So you get all the different information about that particular trial, including, who was enrolled, what was the eligibility criteria, how many sites, all the information that you might need about this particular study. And then you say, well, I want to be able to look at this data. And the way that the reviewers do it is they do it in one of two ways. Either they do one study at a time, so they get the information about that particular study, or they look across, they pool the data to be able to look at if they're looking for adverse events or things like that. So here what we do is you say, okay, well, what do you want to put together? Do you have the right arms? Is this appropriate? And then go ahead and, so in here where it says analysis panels, again, is where those exploratory analyses are. They pick what they need to be doing and they run that particular piece. And this is an example of MEDRA at a glance, which looks at adverse events. And it provides you with, based on the MEDRA hierarchy, it provides you with odds ratios and so that you can roll up your adverse events in a way that they become meaningful to you. Again, these are all exploratory. This is meant to just get the reviewers to start thinking about what they're seeing. What are the signals that are bubbling up? Is this making a difference in the review process? So let me just go back here for a second. So far, I've told you about 2 complete initiatives that we are doing right now in the agency in CEDAR. And one is about getting services directed to the reviewers, services that are particularly focused on a portion of the review. And then also in technology that we're putting into place to make data available to the reviewers in a way that it's useful to them. So we feel that these activities are really making an impact, and we're really looking forward to be able to continue to do this. The other piece that we do is that we want the reviewers to have everything that they need at their fingertips, because I don't know how it is in your environments, but a lot of times you spend more time searching for things than actually using them. I don't know if this happens to you, but that happens to me quite often. And so what we've done is we've gone and talked to the reviewers and we said, what do you use all the time? What do you need? And we've created portals, and we're going to be doing this for all the disciplines, but we started with our medical officers, and we went in and we asked them, we said, tell me what you need, tell me what you use all the time, and we'll put it all together for you. And after a couple of months, we gather all of those requirements, and we put this portal together for them. And we're really excited. We're actually presenting them after, so we gathered the requirements, we created the presentation, and then we went and piloted and said, well, tell me how this is working out. And we're actually, this Thursday, tomorrow, we are opening it up for all of the clinical reviewers in CEDAR to use. And it's big initiatives and little initiatives, right? So we have Jumpstart, which is a big service, very impactful. And we have the clinical reviewer portal, which is a smaller scale, but I still think very impactful in the way that they actually start looking and having their resources available to them. So what it does is that it has these different categories, and now all of the things that they're generally going to, they have them available to them so they can click. They also have the ability to add their own links, things that they use all the time. And again, we want to do this for all our disciplines. We started to talk to the non-clinical reviewers about it. We've talked to the chemists, the clin pharm folks, and we're going to be talking to the statisticians as well. So the idea here is to provide resources in a useful way. So I told you at the beginning that we felt very strongly that it's not just about providing tools and technologies. That I think we have to be very careful about how we present these tools and technologies, and we have to train people in the right ways to use them, because a lot of functionality ends up either misused or not used at all because people don't understand them or don't know about them. So we spent a fair amount of time thinking about reviewer-specific training, and what we found out is that as good as training is for analytical tools that is provided to everybody else, we do things a little bit differently. We look at data a little bit differently. And we have a very specific aim in mind. So we had to really take a lot of time to talk to reviewers and to say, what is it that you care about? And then base review training on those particular pieces. So we've done data standards review. We have a reviewer tool guide that goes through all the analytical tools and technologies that are available right now for them to be able to pick and to understand these technologies. We have training for MAID. We have training for NIMS, is our non-clinical information management system, which is an analytical tool for the animal or non-clinical data. And we have reviewer-centric training for J-Review. We try to incorporate all of these together to make sure that we are taking the best advantage of these particular tools. Our training is really geared towards modalities because we know that people don't learn all the same way, that some people are hands-on, some people are, they want to do it by themselves. Some other people want to, everybody has a different way of tackling these pieces. So we have classroom training, we have on-demand training, we have a lot of user support, and we have all the manuals and guides available to people. What we found out is that what happens a lot of times is reviewers, because of the way that a review process happens, they'll end up using a tool, and then it won't be until like maybe 3 or 4 or 5 months later that they'll get to use that tool again. So we had to find a way to refresh them in a way that would be useful and to increase that learning. So we've also tried to incorporate that into our training pieces here. At the cloud panel yesterday, we were talking about computational power. And this is our attempt to address that issue. And what I was mentioning yesterday, and I apologize if you were at the cloud computing panel yesterday, is that as a reviewer, you're issued a laptop, right? And a lot of times that laptop is fantastic to do everything that you need to be doing, but sometimes it just would not open your data sets because they're just too big, right? So what do? So what we've done is we have scientific computing stations that now our reviewers can log in. And if you're having trouble with the computational power in your laptop, now you can go and use these scientific computing workstations. And we also have additional analytical tools that are not completely deployed in the whole of the center, but if you are a user, now you can use them here. And you can also try out different analytical perspectives. So what happens when that doesn't quite work, right? So now you have a laptop, you have a scientific workstation. We have a lot of reviewers that are doing data modeling, that are doing things that require more computational power. So you can have a couple of our solutions to that. You can string your laptop together, and we call that, virtualization. Or you can, string all your workstations together, and you can do that. So, but sometimes you need even more computational power than that. So we also have a high-performance computing environment that now our modelers can go into to support their questions. So this is the way in which we're tackling, again, I want to take you from all that the office is doing, which is having services for reviewers that are targeted against the regulatory review. We're having technology that allows you for data integration, which we feel is an incredible need in the center at the moment. Very reviewer-centric resources, such like the portal and the training. And now a little bit of this infrastructure challenge that we have, which is when you need increased computational power, how do you get it? So our office is trying to put in mechanisms in which that allows those reviewers to get that computational power as they need it. So these are some of the things that we are doing. The other piece, again, that we do is we want to support our reviewers. So if you notice, our services are not only tools and technologies, they are people that meet with you, people that answer your questions, because we feel that that piece is also, and it is also really important. And the people that we have in providing the services are, for the most part, folks that have done the regulatory review, such as myself and others. So we know how it is to sit down on the other side, right, and go through the data. So we want to create those relationships. We also want the reviewers to talk to each other because they learn things, and because of the way that they're structured, they might not be sharing everything that they're learning. So we want to encourage that sharing of information that support system. The other way that we're doing this is we've established collaborations. And one of our biggest initiatives right now is actually with the PhUSE Computational Science Symposium collaborations. And the way that this came about was that there was a recognition that there's a lot of challenges out there, right? And there's a lot of challenges that we see from the perspective of the agency. There's a lot of challenges that you see from the perspective of whether you're coming from industry, pharma, CROs, consulting providers. So there must be a way to identify what are some of those challenges that we all have, and we can work all together on them. So the CSE was established, and I'm sure you've heard about this, as in a collaboration mode. So the first year, we said, okay, well, let's figure out what kind of issues they are. Let's see what people gravitate towards, and let's start to address that. And the model is that you identify a challenge, that becomes a work stream or a work group, and then you assemble people that are interested in that, and everybody works on it. We wanted to do it in a way that was fluid, in a sense that you establish these work groups, and then you work for a couple of months, and we checked in. So that way, if it's not working out, you let it go. You pick something else. We have enough challenges to pick from. And also because we wanted to be able to get to a point in which we were always contributing to the knowledge out there. And a lot of times when we put these work groups together, and you say, let me see what happens in a year, then a year passes by, and then you have nothing, and then another year passes by, and you have nothing. So here we said, okay, in 3 months, tell me what you're doing. In 6 months, what have you done? And it's not to torture people, but just to say, just whatever you're doing, let's just keep moving. So we've done that for 2 years, and I think there's been a lot of progress. I wanted to tell you about some of the things that are being really impactful right now. And not because some of them are not, and I'm not going to be I'm not going to mention every work group, but I wanted to tell you about some of the things that are really making a difference. One of the projects that was done in the Computational Science Symposium work group was the Study Data Reviewers Guide. And the Study Data Reviewers Guide, the people that work on that, they came out with what a Study Data Reviewers Guide should look like. What is the information that needs to be in there from the perspective of the sponsors, as well as from the perspective of the reviewers. So we had them both sitting at the table and saying, well, I want to see this, I want to see that. They came out with that. Well, remember what I told you about Jumpstart? So we've seen Study Data Reviewers Guide in a couple of our Jumpstart sessions, meaning that sponsors are submitting this template information, and we find it incredibly useful. So there's also, as you know, there's a guidance that might be coming sometime, and and it's matched to a technical conformance document, and that technical conformance document tells you about things that are needed from your submission. And this templated way of doing it is really useful, and it's probably going to be the way that we're recommending that this data is submitted to the agency in support of regulatory review. So this is an example to me of something that was born in those work groups, that everybody sat around the table and put together, and is really making an impact, and it's very useful in the way that it's submitted, and it provides the information that we need. The other one that I want to highlight, again, is the standard scripts repository that they have in the Google Code repository. And I think this is a great idea. It's one of the reasons why we partnered to begin with, is we want to be sharing some of the things that we do. We want people to share amongst with each other. And so people ask me, how do you do that? How do you do that? Well, I want to tell you. I'll give it to you. We just have to find the right way to do it. So this is a step in the right direction to get all of the information out there at the disposal of everybody. The other piece that it's ongoing, that I think is going to be really impactful as well, is the representation of the CGIS foundational standards in RDF. As we move forward and we try to find ways to represent our data in a way that it's flexible, robust, that we can continue to grow. I think that this exercise is very important. And so we focus a lot on the clinical review, but the other piece that has done a tremendous transformation is in the submission of non-clinical data. This is the farm tox data, animal studies in support of the regulatory review. And they also have a standard, it's the STEM standard, and that's also the preferred submission standard for the agency for this type of data. So one of the things that the non-clinical work group did, amongst many things that they did, was that they established a STEM implementation wiki. And so that brought people that have been working on the standard for a really long time, and it exposed them so anybody that was implementing this standard in their particular industries could come and ask questions and share information. So it's been tremendously popular. It's very well developed, and it really has made a difference in the way that not only industry but CROs are able to communicate amongst each other as they sort out through the process of implementing the STEM standard. So there's many more activities going on. We have a couple of other efforts with the Study Data Reviewers Guide for analysis files, for non-clinical data, so that we figure that these are also going to be very important. So this is a way in which we're also contributing to the reviewer support, is by establishing these collaborations with groups to try to address those needs. And it also makes it obvious to you some of the challenges that we have, and it also makes it obvious where are the places and where we can work together. So I think that's really useful. So again, I was trying to take you through some of the things that we're doing. I do think that this is a tale of really trying to transform the regulatory review, that we're trying to be innovative in the way that we approach these challenges. Again, our office, at the end of the day, what we're really interested in is in public health and the approval of products that are safe and effective. We want to be able to allow our clinical reviewers to spend the time doing what they need to be doing instead of trying to deal with data. So increasing that think time, being able to be more effective, more efficient in our regulatory review, and at the end of the day, ensuring the safety and efficacy of products. So we want to bring in that piece of innovation. So I know that when you think about regulatory agencies, the innovation doesn't really pop to the top of your vocabulary, I'm sure. And you can nod your heads, it's okay. But we are trying to be innovative. We are trying to do things differently. And, to be honest, we need your help, because not only do we need your input, we also need, we want to reach out and learn from you and be able to integrate analytical tools and technologies and ways of doing things. So we want to do this together, and we want to be doing it differently so it really makes an impact. So I told you about Jumpstart as a service, a compilation of tools, technologies, and people to provide assessments on quality of data as well as exploratory analysis. We feel that this is making a big impact, and if you need more information, don't hesitate to ask or go to our website. I told you about our CTR, our Clinical Trials Repository Initiative, our data warehousing, integration of data available to the reviewers in a useful fashion. We want to be able to increase that computational power. We want to give those reviewers access to the resources that they need, and we want to be able to be reaching out not only from our office to the reviewers, from the reviewers to reviewer, but also reviewers to the outside community, and this is why engaging in these collaborations like the CSS is really pivotal to our efforts. So it's bringing people together. At the end, as I said, at the end of the day, we all want products that are safe and effective, and I think this is a pathway to trying to get more innovation and transformation into what we're doing right now. Thank you for your attention.